Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to the first breakout session, at least in this room, for our HIP conference of 2025. As you can see, we have Klaus up here today and about Entra backup. And I would ask how many of you have Entra, but we already know from from the previous session that pretty much everybody has Entra. So you're all the target audience for this. Klaus is a technology consultant at CGI Germany and a Microsoft Security MVP. He focuses on hybrid Microsoft technologies with a particular emphasis on Microsoft Active Directory and Entra ID. Klaus actively contributes to the Microsoft Entra and Identity community. He also shares his knowledge through his technical blog, nothingbutcloud.net, and various professional publications. Klaus, take it away.
Thank you very much, Sean, for that introduction. Good morning, and welcome to my session. Welcome to Hybrid Identity Protection Conference. When some my customers becomes very often to backup and release or network ID configurations about and this will up to the videos that so about before start I with to the contract. So I just I'm from Germany and I live in the south of Germany. The information is over my presentation, so please do not hesitate to contact me. You can find me here at the entire week or Sorendea and so. So the agenda for the next 45 minutes is more the list of questions that are asked. So when we talk about Entra ID and the backup, this is very important to know what Microsoft say about what is the vendor statement. So it's a lot big thing that I want to have hopefully some answers on that question. Another very important question for me is what can we actually restore when it comes to an accidental deletion in Entra ID? What object types do we have? So there are many differences, unfortunately, in Entra ID, and this is one topic of my talk. And then another very important thing, in my opinion, is to prevent losing objects in configurations, and we have many really cool tools in Entra ID to do this, to prevent human errors and all these things. So my first slide here is the opinion from Microsoft, and I forget to say what I cover in my talk is just it's not, we do not talk about commercial tools. It's just built-in tools and what you can do with tiny setups, with quick tools, quick wins from your open source, from the community. This is what I wanna let you know, but I will not talk about commercial tools or something like that. So, and what is the statement from Microsoft? It's a short story. It's not so huge. So it is a shared responsibility model what we have here. So Microsoft is a provider from the platform, and it's not so much what they do for an admin. It is the availability of the APIs, for example. A very good documentation library on that different object types on these topics that I want to tell you in this talk here. And the functionality from that provider around the globe, that's it. This is what Microsoft do in this shared responsibility. The more work, the more responsibility in that scenario is with the admin. So the admin must consider what are my objects, what are my possibilities of loss of data and all these things. And this is the more interesting part here, I think. And so the picture is not from me, it's from Microsoft, and you can find additional information on that link below. And in that article, what I can recommend you can find a discussion with all these different object types that I had mentioned. Very important in that scenario is that it is always difficult when we talk about disaster recovery. So this is not what I want to do. So this is another tool set what you might have. So what I sometimes, not often, but sometimes see is human error. Human error in misconfigurations, for example, and all these things. And this is a very big pain point. And yeah, so the clear message from that slide here is that the customer has a responsibility for everything. That's it. And sometimes I'm in a discussion and customers tells me, well, it's a cloud service. Everything is there. Microsoft do this. No, they don't. There is no backup in Entra ID. That's what Microsoft do. And there's no support when you accidentally delete, for example, a conditional access policy, or when you misconfigure anything else. So then you run into a very big problem here. And so this makes sense in my opinion, because I don't know how many tenants Microsoft has around the globe. Let us make the calculation with 1 million. So when they have 1 million tenants, for example, and 1% every day from all the deployments, an admin deletes the wrong policy and he opens a support case, then we are talking about 10,000 support cases every day. This is not possible. This will not work. So this is why Microsoft say, we don't have a backup here in our scenario. So you have to take care on all these things. And this is a bad story. The good story is that there are many, many tools on the market. Open source, I will show you 2 or 3 tools, and also on the commercial markets, there are many, many tools. But you must keep in mind that you always must reconsider your configuration when you bring up new policies, etc., etc. Nothing is fixed, everything is dynamic, and when you change your environment, you must be ensured that you have at least a good documentation, or better, a backup. The thing is that we must find our crown jewels. So what is really important? When I consider a recovery concept, I must know what are my important assets. So what is the thing? So it's completely different in the environments out there. So for example, when we talk about a tenant with more than 50 conditional access policies, then it is nice to have a documentation on this, but it's not helpful. In that case, it is better to have an export or a dump or something like that of all this stuff. This makes sense. Huh? And on the other hand, of course, every company is different, every Entra tenant is different. And when you, for example, has a tenant environment with security defaults enabled, it is not important what to do with the conditional access policy. So this is what I want to say. It's not all equal. So there are always many, many differences, and it must be considered in every individual specific scenario. So no worries, this is not the context that I want to talk about. So I just want to give you a big picture of what we are talking here. So these are all the policies and all the user settings that we have in Entra ID. I think it's not complete. It's just a GPT export result. But I want to highlight a couple of things here that you should consider and what you can do or not do when it comes to an accidental deletion, for example. So one first thing is global secure access. So we have a great talk today from Chris in the other room today about global secure access. Global secure access can be a very challenging setup. You have profiles. You have policies, you have rules and all these things, and you must know what can happen with this. This is definitely a crown jewel, in my opinion, when you use this tool. Another, of course, very, very challenging topic is synchronization. So at the moment we have 2 synchronization tools. We have Cloud Sync and we have Cloud Connect. Cloud Connect is the old version, what we have since ILM2. In the year of 2007, I think. And we have the more modern technology, Cloud Sync. And this is in the Entra portal to configure. But it's not so easy to make that export of all these topics there. We have attribute mappings, we have filter rules and all these things. And this can be a very huge setup. And this is the backbone of your hybrid identity setup when you are on premises with your stuff. And when anything else between on premises and the cloud is broken because of misconfigurations, this is bad. And it's not really, really completely considered in the platform to make that backup of Cloud Sync. Cloud Connect is pretty cool. You have an on-premises server, you have the rule editor where you can make exports. You can make export of that JSON configuration. You can make a staging server, all these things. You don't have this in Entra ID when you run with Cloud Sync. Keep this in mind. Important, conditional access policies. This is my major topic what we're talking about today. And conditional access policies. So this is the backbone of our setup, as you know. And another very important topic, in my opinion, is identity, governance, and compliance. So consider when you have lifecycle workflows, they are very, very important and huge and powerful. And when something in that workflow chain that you have in your environment is lost because of somebody presses the wrong button, bad luck. All your automatic workflows runs not as expected. And last but not least, administrative units. Who use administrative units in this environment? Okay, where's the answer? Oh. So this is, when you first think about this, it's a tiny object, but it can be very complex. So one of my customers, it is an institution with schools, and they have each school in an administrative unit, and they have each class in an administrative unit. And the teacher of that class is the administrator of that administrative unit. And you can imagine what happens when something goes wrong in that setup. So, and in my opinion here, it is a crown jewel. This, what I'm showing here, is not fixed. Your environment, I'm pretty sure, is completely different. And this, what I'm sharing here, is just to give an idea on what we are talking about. This is my favorite slide. So now we talk about objects. So we start with a very easy one, user object. When a user object is deleted, it is, so we have soft deletion and hard deletion. It is 30 days soft deleted and it is in the recycle bin. You can delete it manually, then it is hard deleted. After 30 days, it's hard deleted. We have a recycle bin, everything is fine. You have maybe a synchronization setup with identities on premises, where the user lifecycle is on premises. This is the source of truth. And when you delete an object in Entra and it comes to the next synchronization, it is gone up from the recycle bin. When you have that user object in the recycle bin and it is manually deleted from the recycle bin and it is hard deleted, and you make that synchronization, it is created again. Everything is fine, but that is a new user. It has a new object ID. It is under the hood different. It has the same name, same department, all these things, but it's different. Security groups, bad luck, no soft deletion. When you delete a security group, it is gone. And this is the not so funny part of that talk here, because security group are, in my opinion, very more important than user objects in many cases, because you have configurations which are relying on groups. So this is a conditional access policy, just as an example. Yeah, and in that conditional access policy, I don't have the name of the group in that context, in that JSON. It's the object ID. So it's very easy to make a dump from that security groups in your environment to create CSV files or all these things as a manually backup. It's always possible. And when somebody deletes this group, you can bring it back. Everything is fine. The group is there. It has the same UPI, the name, description, all these things, but it has a new object ID. And it's not longer part of your security story in Entra ID. This is very important. On the other hand, Microsoft 365 groups, they are to user objects in the recycle bin, and you have 30 days time to recover it. The device objects are deleted, hard deleted, definitely, instantly, and they must be new registered. There is a new registration requirement on a device object. And now it's a little bit funny, because when we talk about service principal, and the service principal is deleted, this depends on the type of that enterprise application. So we have two kinds of enterprise applications. So it is either a multi-tenant or a single-tenant application. And when it is multi-tenant, that means it is from the gallery. You have make your setup, and the setup that you made another company also, so it is multi-tenant. The app registration is not in your tenant, it is in another tenant where the software is developed. In that case, you can recover that enterprise application, but not from the recycle bin. There is no recycle bin. You have to do it from the deleted items API with PowerShell or with, for example, the Graph Explorer. If this application is a single-tenant app, then you have both objects in your environment. You have the app registration and the service principal. In that case, you cannot recover that enterprise application from the deleted items API. You get an error. It does not work. In that case, you must do via the app registration, which is also in the recycle bin. And in that scenario, you can use the recycle bin in the Entra ID admin center. So this is confusing, isn't it? But it's not the end of the story. We are it's a little bit far. So, and then administrative unit, what I talked before with my school example. There is no recycle bin in the Entra dashboard. There is just the deleted items API. And we have the same aspect here. It is soft deleted and hard deleted and all these things. And then last but not least, we have the conditional access policies. And this is the funny part of my story, because I had, in the last line here, I had my statement. So they are normally hard deleted. They're gone like security groups, but Microsoft has changed this last week. So I have to rebuild my slide deck. So, okay, I've changed this to the deleted items API on Friday, that text here in that slide. And what did they do on Monday? They published a recycle bin in the Entra admin center. I can show you. So here we are in the admin portal, conditional access. So here we have that deleted stuff. So this is completely new. It's public preview at the moment. And when we navigate to that, we can see what is deleted. And we can make all these things here. So we can delete it permanently. It is then hard deleted, or we can restore it. This is new. But it's cool in my opinion, because this is very, very important configuration topic. And I didn't understand this, why when this object is deleted, that it is gone. There's no way to recover it. But Microsoft has changed it, and this is very good in my opinion. Okay, so I show a couple of objects which do not have a recycle bin. How can I recover these objects? So in this example here, I will show you how you can do this via the deleted items API. It is a Graph Explorer. The first thing that we have to do is we must run a get with the deleted items API, and we have to tell the Explorer here which object type do we want to have. So in this case, it's a service principal. There's another example here with an administrative unit. And last but not least, another example with conditional access policies. And the result always contains the object ID. And this is what you must have when you want to make that restore. And that restore here also in the Graph Explorer is a post command with that object ID. And that's it. And then it's the object back in your environment. I don't know why there is no recycle bin. I don't know if somebody at Microsoft has forgotten this. I don't know, I don't know. But this is the way how you can do it. Okay, but how can we create that backups? How can we bring out of our tenant that stuff to another source? So manually is difficult. We do not talk about that manual things. This did not work. In a lab environment, for example, maybe. PowerShell is our friend, sometimes. In that case, maybe. It is tweaking, because that JSON extract that we have, and we, for example, make this PowerShell commandlets here, it creates a dump, an export of all of our conditional access policies. But this export it contains all the objects, all the attributes in that object. And we have lots of read-only attributes in that JSON. And when we want to make a restore, it comes to an error. It is not possible. So when you do it on a simple way like this, you must manipulate the JSON export. But I have a couple of customers that haven't made any export or backup of their conditional access policies. And it is better to have an export like this than having nothing. This is the JSON from that export. This is what I mentioned. So we have that created date time. This is read only. We have it is read only and modified date time and a lot of other attributes also. They are read only. A little bit more comfortable is the Entra exporter. This is a better friend. You can download it from the open source. It's on GitHub, and it's free to use, and it's not so complicated. It makes a backup of your entire environment from specific policies. I will show you how we can work with this. So I hope that demo is running, because this is on a workstation machine at home in Germany. So there's an Atlantic Ocean in between. I hope everything is fine. This is in my GitHub PowerShell. You can download it. The link is at the end of that slide deck. I have two scripts here, and both are based on the Entra exporter. The first thing here writes my policies to the file system. And what you have at the end is a file structure with all the policies. And I can show it to you later. And it is very easy to implement. So we have in that script here, we must connect. This is the first thing. And then we make that export. And in my example here, I make that export of conditional access policies. And that's it. Nothing more. When we do not specify that type, in that case, we have an export of the entire environment. It is very important to mention that export and the exporter, it's not a backup tool. There is no backup. It's just a stupid dump, nothing more. That's it. But you should consider this. If you do not have nothing, or one of your customers have nothing, you should think about a tool like this, because in that case, you can bring your conditional access policies very, very fast back. So when I came back to that script here, this is a tiny demo. So what it makes is it makes a Git on my local machine with versioning. And I have read local. This reads the local Git, and I have that write. It makes a backup of the entire system. When I let this run here, that's it. You can schedule it, you can put it in a runbook, logic app, whatever. It runs in the background, and when it comes to deletion, you are on the safe side and can say, okay, I have a problem now, but I can reduce that problem because I have that JSON stuff on my disk. The Entra Explorer read is the opposite. When I let this run here, I have a list with all my versions that I have make a backup in the history. And when I make a restore, for example, from number 33, so that's it, nothing more. I think it is useful for a lab environment or something like that. So I will not introduce you here with a solution that you can use in your enterprise environment. I think it's not the point. The point that I want to mention here is that you are considered, that you know that how important these things are. So when I then have that conditional access policy brought back, I can jump to my Entra Admin Center. Okay. And here we can go to the conditional access dashboard. Navigate to policies. I just want to show you very quick. And then we have here the option upload policy file. And then we can select this. So let me see, where is my file? It is in... Okay, so when we pick up one of that files here, so this is my JSON representation. And when we now save this one, then it comes to an error, because this is what I mentioned before. Now it tries to write the read-only attributes, object ID, modified, date, timestamp, all these things. This did not work. In that case, we must create a new policy. And this is a good thing on the website, because here it looks into that JSON and says, okay, I know you have a couple of things in your conditional access policy, grant controls, target, all these things. I will bring them back. And by the way, I make a new object ID. I make all the read-only attributes under the hood for you. This is what it does when I make that review and create. So as you can see here, I don't know what policy it was. It is session control, but this is what I want to show you. Everything is up and running again. And it is that the setup is very easy. You can extend that what I show you to GitHub, for example, or something like that. In my example, it is on the local work machine. It works. Entra Exporter, in my opinion, a cool tool. So another cool tool is Microsoft 365. DSC, somebody here who knows this tool is using Microsoft 365? It is another good friend, in my opinion. You can make a little bit more than you can do with the Entra Exporter. You can make monitoring, you can make reports, you can mirror tenants, you can have a blueprint of a setup and can bring that blueprint content back to your tenant, all these things. So when you are considering backup, export topics in your environment, you should keep an eye on Microsoft 365. It is also free, also open source. Okay, I mentioned before that it is possible, very easy possible, that an object is hard deleted. But what can we do then? This is bad luck, because you can do nothing. There's nothing in the environment what you can do when an object is hard deleted. It is away. But when you have, for example, an export from the Entra Exporter or from another tool, it is a JSON construct. When you have this, then you can bring it back. I brought that article here in the history, and it is it goes into administrative units. And I have hard deleted section in the chapter here. And when we go back, so I explained it here. What you can do in the first step, you must recreate that object, and then you have a new object with a new object ID, and then you must customize that object with that content from the Entra Exporter. This works. I don't want to go too deep into the detail here because we run out of time, but you can go to that article. It is all explained there, and in that picture here you can see the structure from the Entra Exporter. We have that administrative unit here. We have the object IDs, we have that member section, and all these things. One second. So you can in that case, it's easy to make that recreation from that hard deleted object. You can make it when you have, for example, dynamic membership rules. You can bring it back. It's very easy, very simple, very good, very cool. And as I want to repeat it here, but Microsoft is not the organization what can help you in that case. Okay, what can we do to prevent this so that it did not come to that deletion, did not come to that human error? So who in the audience uses PIM protected groups? Please repent. Good, pretty cool feature I can recommend. It's absolutely cool, and you can protect your groups with PIM protected groups. But is this a feature which you should use to protect your groups? I will say no, because PIM protected groups is made for eligible assignment with PIM on group ownership and membership. That's it. The side effect from groups which are in PIM is that they are protected, and only a global admin and a privileged rule admin can modify these groups. This is the side effect. But this functionality, in my opinion, is not made for protecting groups. For this, we have administrative units. Again, administrative units. It's mentioned many times in this session. We have administrative unit restricted management. This is pretty new. It is GA since June this year, and you can protect objects in an administrative unit. So when you know Active Directory or organizational units, you should not compare this with administrative units. OUs are, you can assign GPOs to them. You have a hierarchical structure, all these things. You have inheritance. You do not have these things with an administrative unit. So it shouldn't be compared together. This makes no sense. But when we go to the Entra Admin Center, and when we say here, we have that administrative units in our okay, when we here create a new administrative unit, we can say, okay, we want to have protected that administrative unit. And this is cool, because you can log out on global admin in that case. You can say, okay, you global admin, you do not have to touch this. When you are a global admin, you can bring you into that OU because you have the permissions to do that, but you can prevent accidental deletions. Human errors can be prevented with that thing. And this is pretty cool in my opinion. So I'm here when I go to roles and admins. So I'm a global admin, as you can see here. And when I go to that, for example, stuff, and when I want to modify a group membership, for example, I cannot do that because it is restricted. And the cool story here is that this object is in the AU. But when you touch this object outside of that AU, it works also. So otherwise it makes no sense. So when we go back to groups, what was the name? I guess critical something. Critical group. So this is not in the OU, but when I want to touch this here, it says directly, so not possible. This is cool, isn't it? New since June and absolutely helpful in some cases. We have protected actions. Which one in the audience uses protected actions in Entra ID? I can recommend to keep an eye to protected actions. It's absolutely powerful. It is for administrators who are a little bit paranoid and when they want to have an additional layer of security in the environment. Absolutely. Protected actions are activities in Entra what you can protect. Protect with what? Conditional access. And this is absolutely powerful. I can show you what I mean. When we go back to our Entra Admin Center here, we have multiple places where we must set up protected actions. The first thing what we have to do is we have to go to the conditional access dashboard and we have that authentication context here. An authentication context is just a label, a tag or something like that. Sorry. And when we have that label specified, here for authentication context, we can add other contexts here as we need. And I have it already created here. It is protected deleted items. And when we have that authentication context, we can go back to that roles and admin dashboard. That is here. And here we have the protected actions. And in that protected action section, we can specify protected actions. And at first, we have to select our context that we have specified in the conditional access dashboard. They are shown here. Select one of these, and in the next step, we select the according permission that we want to connect with this. And there are a couple of actions here. It is not the entire policy setup in Entra ID, but it is good, better than have nothing. And what I want to let you know is that we have a new item here, also since this year, and this is the deleted items protected permission. So with this, we can prevent that an administrator deletes, for example, a user, which is in the recycle bin. This can make sense. When we go to that, as an example, so we have another window here. Let me see. I want to show you the conditional access policy behind, because this is the third part that we must touch. So we have that context, we have the protected action, where we have that context assigned to, and then the important topic here is the conditional access policy. And I have it prepared here to let you know. This one, the CA132, this is a regular conditional access policy, and we have all the elements in that policy that you maybe know. The important thing here is that we go with the target resources to that authentication context. And that means that when an administrator deletes that or makes that protected action belonging to that context, it fires that policy. So there are many scenarios what you can think about, what you can do with that. You can check, is that administrated workstation, is it compliant? Is the administrator on a trusted location? All these things, absolutely powerful in my opinion, in that zero trust story, this feature, definitely. Okay, what else do we have here? So yes, smart alerting is an important resource. It's not a restore topic what you can do, but knowing someone when something has happened can make sense. At the end of that slide deck is shared to the audience. There are a couple of hard copies and screens how you can configure it. I run out of time here. We cannot go into that detail, but it can make sense to be alerted when something has happened. When somebody changes that conditional access policy, for example, you can get an SMS or an email or whatever. Okay, time is running very fast. This brings me to my agenda questions that I've asked when I start that talk. So I guess Microsoft standpoint is clear. So make your job. You as an admin has to do your homework. This is what is absolutely important. And you as a tenant admin have to know what is important. When you do not run with global secure access policies today, and we will make it in 2 weeks, you must then bring this new technology into your backup strategy, definitely. It's not stable, it's not fixed. Everything is changing, as you maybe know from the zero trust journey. Always reassess your crown jewel. So what is important? What are the things in my environment? This is very, very important. And this is not so often discussed in the Microsoft world. I cannot understand why, but this is important. This is what rescues an admin when he knows what are the crown jewels. And last but not least, what I think what is absolutely important is to protect your stuff, to protect the conditional access policies, protect anything else what you can protect. And Microsoft makes a good job with all these technologies in Entra. But in my opinion, so please believe me, so as an MVP, I'm very happy with Microsoft technology stuff. I love it. But what they do with the deleted objects, so it is deleted, it is soft deleted, hard deleted, it is in the recycle bin. There is that. Wow. These topics are not very often in the scenario from an administrator. So when he runs into a problem, when he deletes, for example, an AU, where's the recycling? There's no recycling. So you have to know it. So this is what I think. I mean, I will not finger point to Microsoft, but I think this is there is room for improvement. It's challenging for an administrator. So that's it. So additional readings, so further resources. That new article here, it is very new regarding that access policies. There are more other things. So I brought 2 articles here. So the first one you have seen, there's another one, protecting conditional access policies. So feel free to keep an eye on this and to get in touch with me. I'm here the entire week. And you can also reach me on the community. So thank you very much for listening, to joining my session. And I don't know how many time we have, maybe enough time to...
We have a few minutes for Q&A. Great job.
Perfect.
And thanks, Klaus, for this information. Does anybody want to ask any questions or dive in a little more detail? Yes. And let me run the mic over so that way not only can people hear, but it's on the recordings.
Thanks for the presentation. Whoa, that's loud. Where do you recommend storing the export? I know you said you did it locally. Do you recommend putting that like in GitHub, in Azure DevOps, like storing the JSON for version control? Is that like a consideration, or should you always keep that local so that it's not accessible?
I'm sorry, that audio is very bad. I cannot understand what you say. Sorry, I cannot understand what you're saying because the audio is so...
Well, I'll re-ask.
That's perfect.
Even better.
Sorry.
The question was, where do you recommend storing the backup that you're generating out of the Entra exporter? Is that like that's most secure local? Do you recommend putting that in ADO or like GitHub? And like then if you have that tight SSO, there tendency there where it's like if you did lose your Entra tenant and your identity, like do you lose access to your export as well? What are your thoughts there?
So yes, it's a good question. So I will not recommend do it local. This is for a lab environment. This is playing with itself. So I just want to show you what is possible, how it works. It makes sense to have it in GitHub. It makes sense to use additional tools. So it's not time enough to talk all these tools about. So, but Terraform, for example, it is great. Who knows Terraform? This is great. Terraform is completely other story. You have the source of truth, not in Entra. You have that object stuff with read-only. You have this here not. It doesn't matter. So keep it away from your environment. Put it in the cloud at GitHub. Absolutely, you have that versioning there. This is what I can recommend there. Does this answer your question? Yeah.
We have time for one more question. Oh, and right here. Yeah, Drew, we're going to try this again, at least so we can get it.
Concerning administrative units, we currently use it to allow access to read BitLocker keys.
Can you do it with all the microphones? Sorry.
To just skip this.
I can repeat the question.
So this concerning administrative units, I currently use them to give certain people access to read BitLocker keys and then control some groups. Do you know if Microsoft is going to expand the API permissions? Like, it doesn't seem like a lot of them are available to actually use. Like, I can assign it to administrative unit, but then when I actually go to try it, it doesn't actually apply like you think it would. You know if that's something they're working on?
So I'm not, but I think Microsoft is very busy working on it. So they make many extensions in the environment. So you see that conditional access stuff. This is what something is new. I know from another couple of private previews that they are working on security groups, that they are gone, definitely hard deleted. This will change in the future. I don't know exactly what is happening with the administrative units, but they are working on topics like that. And when I have a wish today here, I will have it in the dashboards, history, who has changed what when, and how can I bring it back, a backup restore functionality. Does this make sense?
I think we're all set. Thanks, everybody. And of course, you'll see him the rest of the week. So if you have any questions that you think of that don't occur to you now, you can grab him and get his expertise. Yes, the slides will be available shortly after the conference. And so that way you'll get all the references as well. So
thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Klaus.
Thank you.